Welcome to Mendoza Reacts to PMQs. I'm Kerry-Anne Mendoza, editor-at-large at the Canary. We're going to watch this week's Prime Minister's questions and see if we can't pick apart some of the nonsense. Let's have at it. Sorry, wait, but before we continue with this, can we just take a look at this sloppy bastard? Look at him. Is that a soup stain? Is that actually a soup stain on that man's lapel? He's got dandruff and his own hair all over his jacket. This is the look of a man who has been dragged from his vodka bottle in bed and just propped up at that dispatch box.
The opposition, Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah. Oh look, it's King of the Sensibles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I start by expressing shock and anger at the death of George Floyd? This has shone a light on racism and hatred experienced by many in the US and beyond. I'm surprised the Prime Minister hasn't said anything about this yet, but I do hope that next time he speaks to President Trump, he will convey to him the UK's abhorrence about his response to the events.
Firstly, King of the Sensibles, it's all well and good Keir Starmer getting up here and having a pop at Boris Johnson. We know Boris Johnson's an unrepentant racist. The difference is he doesn't really pretend to be anything else. This guy, however, over here in the Labour Party are hemorrhaging black voters right now. This is a party that found out that its very own staff, people being paid for by Labour members, were systematically bullying black MPs, and their response has been silence. Not a single person has been held accountable. There isn't even a timeline for any person being held accountable. So I'm sorry, Keir, but the only time that white Labour MPs, other than Jeremy Corbyn and a handful of them, give two shits about black people is when they can weaponise us for their purposes. If we're not going to be of some value to creating this brand of progressive when it's really just surface level tokenistic bullshit, they don't give a crap. Like, they really, really don't.
Mr. Speaker, the Telegraph this morning is reporting that the Prime Minister has decided to take direct control of the government's response to the virus. So an obvious question for the Prime Minister, who's been in direct control up till now?
You've got to ask it because it ain't Boris. Well, look at the state of this man. This man is not running the country right now, period. Dominic Cummings is probably running the country right now.
The right honourable gentleman had to say about the death of, I think what happened in the United States was appalling. It was inexcusable. We all saw it on our screens.
You don't give two shits about George Floyd.
And I perfectly understand.
Black people are being shot in their cars. Black people are being shot on their corners. Black people are being shot on their couches and in their beds. In their own beds. This is serious. This is not, you're not dealing with a responsible government. You're not dealing with a responsible police force here.
Look at this. They just keep coming.
Go inside! Get inside! Get inside! Go inside now! Get in the house!
I'm sorry.
Maxie, we're going to go here.
I just wanted to say I was working the medic tent. I'm a CNA PCA. I'm trained in first aid. I haven't done it in a while, and I was helping a man who got shot in the leg with a rubber bullet. He was bleeding so much.
You saw this?
I was helping him. I was cutting his pants. I was trying to help him. I was trying to look at the wound, and they came up and they were shooting right at us. He grabbed a garbage can to hold it over me so I wouldn't get hurt. And I told him I wouldn't leave him, and I did, and I feel so bad. I couldn't. They were shooting. I was scared. They didn't care. They didn't care that he was hurt.
I just want to remind you, nobody was doing anything. They pulled in, they opened fire. Look at them. They're aiming their fire now. They're working towards us. They're working. Step back. Get back. Get back. Get back. Your head. His head. Step back. Step back. I got it. Whoa. Watch it, guys. We got gas here. All right. Back up. All right. They are now moving toward us. There was...
Come on, they're shooting at us.
Okay, they're shooting, guys.
Let's go.
Put your helmets on.
Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! Back up! Get out of here. Go. Keep going. Keep moving.
She's walking away! got plenty of time here.
Are you okay? Shut! I'm getting... Katie, are you okay?
Press! Press! I'm press!
I don't care. Get down.
I am press!
I don't care. Get down.
Okay, I'm down. I'm down.
Stay.
Go inside!
Can't move. You understand?
Okay.
Thank you.
I am press. Please.
I was just sprayed in the face with pepper spray.
And what I think the country would like to hear from him is more signs of cooperation in that endeavour.
Oh, fuck off.
Mr. Speaker, he asked for a sign of cooperation, a fair challenge. I wrote to him, as he knows, in confidence 2 weeks ago, to ask if I could help build a consensus for getting children back into our schools. I did it confidentially and privately because I didn't want to make a lot of it. He hasn't replied. Mr. Speaker, this is a critical...
Why? Why are you writing to him privately when the kids are already back at school? It's already happened, Keir. It's too fucking late now, isn't it? Oh, God, this guy. Honestly, watching Keir Starmer is like the difference between Twitter and Facebook. He's always a week behind. It's just... It's fucking Captain Obvious.
Easing restrictions involves very difficult judgment calls.
True.
So this is the week of all weeks where public trust and confidence in the government needed to be at its highest.
Wow, they shout over that.
But as the director of the Reuters Institute, which commissioned a YouGov poll this weekend, said, I have never, in 10 years of research, seen a drop in trust like we've seen for the UK government. How worried is the Prime Minister about this loss of trust?
Prime Minister.
I'm surprised he should take that tone, Mr. Speaker, since I took the trouble...
Pause. I'm so done with this tone policing, but what is very funny about this is basically what is happening now is the far right is doing to Keir Starmer and the centrists what they spent years doing to the left. It's hilarious. It is just hilarious. You catch them in a lie, you catch them in a moment of failure, and their response is not to be accountable, it's to shift the blame. It's to make your upset, your anger, your justified disappointment in their ongoing incompetence and corruption, your feelings are the problem. The frickin' tone police.
When we have symptoms, we take a test and we isolate.
What, like Dominic Cummings?
And I think everybody understands that. That's why the disease, the incidence of this disease is coming down. And I think his attempts to distract the public from that have not been successful because they continue to pay attention to our guidance.
He hasn't even been making any efforts to lead the public in another direction. Like, Keir Starmer has, like, attached himself to Boris Johnson's anus and he's just sort of swallowing the bullshit as it comes, really, at the moment. It's enormously frustrating because it does mean that when all this is through, it's going to be very hard for Labour to claim that they would have run this any differently because they've supported all of the key steps at all of the critical moments that Boris Johnson's team have made them. So it's going to look like a case of sort of hypocrisy and sour grapes later. It's almost like, what do you call it, like a Monday morning quarterback. He's going to arrive after the event and go, well, we'd have done it differently. And Boris Johnson will rightly be able to say, hang on a minute, you supported us on reopening schools, you supported us on the lockdown, you supported us on, it's going to be a long list. It's just, and this is the problem with centrists right now, they are not understanding the political situation we're in. They're playing optics like it's 1999 and it's 2020. Things are very different now.
This was a confidential letter. I think the best thing I can do is put it in the public domain and the public can decide for themselves.
I don't even give... No one's reading your letter, Keir. No one gives a shit.
Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago today at the dispatch box, the Prime Minister promised that we will have a test, track and trace operation that will be world-beating. And yes, it will be in place by the 1st of June. But it isn't. And a critical element, the ability of local authorities to respond to local spikes is missing. As one council leader put it to us, we're weeks away from having this fully up and running. We simply weren't given enough warning. The Prime Minister mutters it's not true. Dido Harding, the Prime Minister's own chair of the track and trace system, has said that this element will not be ready until the end of June. The Prime Minister must have been briefed on this problem before he made that promise 2 weeks ago. So why did he make that promise?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid he's casting aspersions on the efforts of tens of thousands of people who set up a test, track and trace system in this country from a standing start. We now have 40,000 people engaged in this. Every person, thousands of people are being tested, as he knows, every day. Every person who tests positive in this country in the track and trace system is contacted. Then thousands of their contacts are themselves contacted, people they've been in contact with. And I can tell the House, at the moment, as a result of our test, track and trace system, which was up and running on the 1st of June,
bang!
as I said,
let's
Mr.
bang our
Speaker,
fingers.
contrary to what he said, which was up and running, as a result of their efforts, thousands of people are now following our guidance, following the law, and self-isolating to stop the spread of the disease.
Right. Pause. That's just not true. This is just not true. So 2 important things that you need to know. Firstly, the Statistics Authority, the regulator of statistics in the United Kingdom, has now publicly condemned Matt Hancock, the Secretary of State for Health, and the government for manipulating statistics in their daily briefings, particularly on testing. So a couple of the tricks that they've been using, when they give you that figure for these are how many tests are being done, firstly, those are not tests on people, they are overall tests. And lots of people who are being treated for coronavirus are tested more than once. So this sense that you have of this big proportion of the population being tested is not true, because maybe a third of those are actually the people. But, I mean, that's tricksy enough. But even more tricksy than that is that they are also counting tests posted out to people as tests conducted. And the numbers are insane. We're talking about about 40,000 of the tests per day that they're counting as tests done are simply tests sent out. We have no data whatsoever on the numbers of people who have received those tests and taken them and sent them back and got their results, and on what timescale that is happening. We simply don't know. So when he's going up there and giving this flashy looking figure, you can basically have it by the time you take out all of the nonsense. It's crazy what they're up to right now, and this is just more of it. He's asked a simple question. You've been caught with your pants down. Why is your dick hanging out? And he's got up and started waving it around and going, oh, it's my dick, and stop criticising all of the people that take care of my penis. Oh. And the other issue here, and the issue that Keir Starmer's bringing up around test and trace, we now know with absolute certainty we do not have a fully operational test, track and trace system in the United Kingdom. It is not in operation. We know this from the people working on it. We also know this because Channel 4 managed to get a leak of the numbers. I don't know if you saw, but in yesterday's daily briefing, Matt Hancock flat refused to get. So Matt Hancock comes out and he's all like, "It's excellent. Oh, track and trace system is fantastic. We love it." And then basically journalist after journalist were like, "That's great, you're telling us that, but can you give us some numbers to back that up? How many people have been contacted by the tracers? How many people, where is the actual data that proves that your system is working?" And Matt Hancock was like, "Oh no, we don't have that right now, but we'll have it maybe by the end of the week." It's just maddening. Then what happened was Channel 4 actually managed to get hold of the data for the contact tracing. So just to give you an example of how contact tracing works. Say I test positive for coronavirus, right? I then report that to the contact tracers, and they ask me who I've been in contact with over the last 7 to 10 days. So I write down my little list and their contact details. It's then their job to contact all those people and make sure that they self-isolate for 14 days. The idea then being that this little cluster of coronavirus around me, the infected person, is then suppressed. That's the goal. But obviously this depends on testing enough people to find out who actually has COVID-19 and learning that quickly enough that you can act to suppress that cluster. So it's no good if a person is getting tested a week late or 2 weeks late, or they're getting it posted and then they're never sending it back. You then lose your ability to manage those clusters. The second point is you also need to make sure you have contacted and tested the people on my contacts list very, very quickly. Otherwise, you guessed it, they've already gone and contacted a whole bunch of other people, especially because lockdown is now eased, and that's it. We've also lost control of the cluster. Too far behind. All of this relies on mass testing and super quick contact tracing. So what we find out in this leaked data from Channel 4 is that at the moment, fewer than half of the people identified by those, so half of the people on that list to contact and say you've been around someone who had COVID-19, self-isolate for 14 days, fewer than half of those people have been contacted. It's already too late now. They've already gone to work, they've already gone to school, they've already gone down the doctor's surgery to pick up a prescription, they've already gone in their local corner shop, they have already done this shit. It's too late. You've lost control of the cluster. And what that leaves you with is simply that the government has sent people out in the middle of a global pandemic, that disease is still circulating, without what they promised them they would have. The government promised people, we are watching, we are going to be right on this, we've got the world-beating test and trace system in place, and they lied. And he's still lying now.
According to the ONS, the number actually infected every day is between 7,000 and 9,000. Assuming up to 5 contacts need to be traced for every infected person, the system probably needs to reach 45,000 people a day. So there's a long way to go. And I'm sure if it is 45,000 a day, the Prime Minister will confirm that in just a minute. But the problem when the Prime Minister used statistics is that the Statistics Authority have had concerns on more than one occasion. Yesterday, in a strongly worded letter to the Health Secretary, the chair of the UK Statistics Authority said that the statistics still fall well short of expectations. He went on to say, it is not surprising that given their inadequacy, data on testing are so widely criticised and so often mistrusted. Can the Prime Minister see how damaging this is to public trust and confidence in his government?
I must say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, I really do not see the purpose of his endless attacks on public trust and confidence, when what we are trying to do, and I think what the public want to hear from politicians across all parties, are clear messages about how to defeat this virus. Test and trace is a vital tool in our armoury, and contrary to what he says, actually, we did, by the end of May, get up to 100,000 tests a day, and we got up to 200,000 by the beginning of this month. And that was an astonishing achievement.
He didn't. None of this is true. None of this is true. This is just lies.
To them and what they've achieved.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is confusing scrutiny for attacks. On the 10th of May, the Prime Minister said, on the question of lifting restrictions, if the alert level won't allow it, we will simply wait and go on until we've got it right. At the time when he said that, the alert level was 4, and the R rate was between 0.5 and 0.9.
Look at him.
We're now 3 weeks on. Some restrictions have been lifted. So can the Prime Minister tell us what's the alert level now and what's the R rate now?
Prime Minister, he knows perfectly well that the alert level does allow it, and that's and indeed he didn't raise that issue with me when we had a conversation on the telephone, and he.
Pause. Okay, Boris Johnson is not going to answer that question, but the truth is our alert level is currently 4, which means the pandemic is underway. There is an epidemic underway. It's not gone away. It is still happening. And the R rate is already at 1 in some areas of the United Kingdom. It's right under 1 in the areas that it isn't. So really, for most people right now, they're going out when this thing is at an R rate of about 0.9. Areas like Somerset are currently at 0.9. And as we've already discussed, the track and trace system is not in place. The testing is not in place to be able to react quickly. And the issue with the R rate is, you know, the difference between literally 0.91 and 1.1 is like hundreds of people dying a day or thousands. It's really, really serious. And this guy is just sending people out basically to their deaths. A lot of people are very likely to die as a result of these decisions. That's reality. And the thing is, if that doesn't happen, it's a miracle. It's not. It won't be the outcome of any action they've taken. It will just literally be a miracle. In all of the indicators suggest that this will kill a lot of people, and that's what they're working with. So they're taking basically a Hail Mary, let's see what happens, with all of this risk attached, to prevent them having to actually change the way our economy works. Because the way our economy works doesn't work anymore. That's the issue. These guys are so locked in to the way things have already been done. They have neither the ideas or the intention of fixing any of it. They just want to milk and extract as much money as they can from it. These people will literally burn the country to the ground to extract the last pound out of it, of cash. Like, really, that's the situation we're in. This is not a government. This is just not a government. They're robber barons.
So, yes, the alert level remains at 4, but as Sage will confirm, we've managed to protect the NHS. We've got the rate of deaths down. We've got the rate of infection down. The PPE crisis, the difficulties in care homes, the question of the R, they have been addressed. And I think the question for him, Mr. Speaker, is whether he actually supports the progress we're making. Because at the weekend...
What progress? We've got the highest death toll in the world.
Now he's doing a U-turn. Now he seems to be against the steps that this country is taking.
That's your gotcha.
I've supported the government in the gradual easing of restrictions. That is why I wrote to the Prime Minister 2 weeks ago, because I could see the problem with I could see the problem with schools, and I thought it needed leadership and consensus, and I privately offered to do what I could to build that consensus. That's the offer that wasn't taken up.
No one gives a shit about your letter, Keir.
Leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Watching events unfold across America in recent days and the actions and rhetoric from the American president have been distressing and deeply worrying. We cannot delude ourselves at believing that we are witnessing anything short of a dangerous slide into autocracy. It is in times like these when people look to those they elect for hope, for guidance, for leadership and for action. However, in the 7 days since George Floyd was murdered, the UK government has not even offered words. It has not expressed that pain. It has shuttered itself in the hope that no one would notice. The Prime Minister skirted over this earlier in Prime Minister's questions. So can I ask the Prime Minister, what representations has he made to his ally Donald Trump? And at the very least, Prime Minister, say it now, Black Lives Matter.
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course Black Lives Matter. And I totally understand the anger, the grief, that is felt not just in America but around the world and in our country as well. I totally understand that and I get that.
No,
and I also support, as I've said, the right to protest. The only point I would make to the House is that protests should be carried out lawfully, and in this country protests should be carried out in accordance with our rules on social distancing.
Pause. So wait, he has censured the protesters but not the president? This man is a coward. But the thing is, that cowardice would imply he actually felt differently to Donald Trump and simply didn't feel that he could challenge him because he wasn't in a position powerful enough to do that. But that's not the situation we're in. He fucking agrees with him. This is the guy who called people in Africa pickaninnies with watermelon smiles. Him and his number 2, Dominic Cummings, believe in eugenics. They believe white people are intrinsically superior to black people. They are racists. They are eugenicists. The issue here isn't that he can't stand up to President Trump. The issue here is he is President Trump with a plummy accent. Drag him, Ian.
Well, I'm afraid,
drag him.
Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister didn't answer the question of what representations has he made to his friend Donald Trump. Mr. Speaker, it is imperative that the UK is vocal on human rights, freedom to gather and protest, freedom of speech, and upholding press freedom in other parts of the world. It would be nothing short of hypocrisy if we were to turn a blind eye to events unfolding in the US. However, actions speak louder than words, and the Prime Minister can shake his head, but the UK exports millions of pounds worth of riot control equipment to the US, including tear gas and rubber bullets. The Prime Minister must have seen how these weapons are used on American streets. With the government's own guidance warning against equipment being used in such way, will the Prime Minister urgently review such exports?
No,
I'm happy to look into any complaints, but as he knows, all exports are conducted in accordance with the consolidated guidance, and the UK is possibly the most scrupulous country in that respect in the world.
I just look at it. We'll be trying to do this as much as we can each week. PMQs will happen. I'll watch them. I'll give you my reaction to them, along with some extra little factoids just to correct all the nonsense. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.